What's going on, everybody? Propsuiz back at it again with yet another video for you guys. Gonna be trying to be something informative here, and this is gonna be a special one because I am doing a ban list prediction for you guys. I know everything I've done up to this point has been voice content. There's gonna be tons and tons of voice content coming very soon. I'm gonna have a combo video coming for you guys soon. Another one with like an hour or so, maybe 45 minutes worth of gameplay, insane combos. I've been forging that, just figuring out which are going to be the best combos to show off, just making sure it's well edited and all that good stuff. I'm going to have obviously a ban list reaction video and all kinds of good stuff like that. So let me know if you guys enjoy this kind of content, what kind of other content you guys would like to see. I really appreciate everybody's continued support. I want to try to bring everybody all the value possible, and this is something that I was hoping I could bring some ideas to, shed some light on, and bring my my ideas to. So if you guys enjoy the video, please be sure to like, subscribe, drop in the comments what you guys agree with, what you guys disagree with, and let's get right into it. So for the ban list, it is going to be coming in late August. That's why I decided to do this video today and kind of prioritize this, because I think it's not impossible for us to get a list this weekend. This Friday is technically when late August starts, because it's more than halfway through the month, which means it's later end of the month. And I don't want to get a ban list without being able to drop a prediction, because I think I have like a good indicator of what might happen. Obviously, it's Konami, and they tend to like to do random things, so nobody really knows, but I think that I have like a good cue on what is going to happen. So let's start off with everybody's favorite, good old-fashioned Snake Eyes Ash. I know a lot of people are saying this is going to get limited. I personally think that this card, nothing is going to happen to this card. I think this card is oppressive. However, I think that there's just better cards to hit. I don't think that you need to hit multiple different cards if you're hitting the right cards in this, which I will explain. So Poplar is going to be the next card. I have seen some people say ban Poplar, and I do think banning Poplar would kill the deck, but and we just wouldn't play it against it anymore. However, I think my personal issue, and I think what Konami's going to think about Poplar, is that other decks can utilize Poplar, and it doesn't need to be just a Snake Eyes card, which I actually think is kind of neat. Like, I like the idea of in Rescue Ace you could play like 3 Bonfire and a Poplar if you obviously aren't banning original Simple Spoils, and I think Poplar is like a neat card. So I personally would leave Poplar, and I think Konami's going to do the same thing. I think Poplar is like a fine card if the deck is not massively oppressive. The next card we're going to talk about is Flameburge. I think everybody's kind of had opinions on Flameburge and talked about it. I think Flameburge just needs to be banned. I think banning Flameburge really cleans up this deck massively. Like, I genuinely think that you can do like a little bit with the deck, but I think if you just ban Flameburge, the deck is not an issue anymore. I think that is like the biggest thing that absolutely has to happen on this ban list. They need to ban Flameburge. We don't need to ban Flameburge and put... I've seen a lot of people be like, oh, let's ban Flameburge and put Ash to 1 and put this to, like, other cards to 1, ban this or that. Poplar. I think that if you just ban Flameburge, you will not have to deal with the pure Snake Eyes deck anymore. You probably won't even see Snake Eyes Ash anymore, because the pure Snake Eye deck is just going to fade out of the meta, and we're not going to have to deal with it. In theory, you could still like go Snake Eye Ash for Poplar, and then like effect for OSS or whatnot if it stays around. And I think that that's like a fine interaction even in like other fire decks. So I don't hate Snake Eye Ash staying at 3 as long as it's not tutoring Flameburge. I think it's perfectly fine. There are some cards I'm sure you're going to notice that I didn't add. I think it's just because at this point, like, we had a discussion. Obviously everybody was discussing a long while ago. I know Jesse Cotton said Oak. I don't think Jesse Cotton still believes Oak is going to be a good enough hit. I don't think anybody thinks Oak is a good enough hit. The field spell, I didn't put the field spell on here because, let's be honest, like, we all know that they're not banning Oak in the field spell. Like, I think as a community, we all expect to clean up, and I personally, and I'd have to admit, or like imagine that everybody else would be pissed if they banned Oak and just didn't deal with like the actual problems. Like, if we don't see Flameburge banned, then it's got to be Poplar. Like, there is no other way around it. It has to be that. We've seen it in the OCG. We've seen it on Master Duel. Like, they hit the extra deck cards last time, and, like, the deck's arguably better than it was before. Flamebridge needs to go. If not Flamebridge, then it will be Poplar, but I think it's one or the other. I think for the health of, like, the game and cool interactions, and one of the things that's awesome about Yu-Gi-Oh! Poplar, I think, should stay. Another card is Bonfire. I've seen a lot of people saying, like, Reinforcement of the Army is at 1, put Bonfire to 1. In the future, maybe Bonfire is super strong, but right now I just don't think Bonfire is specifically an issue. I think Bonfire is only irritating when, like, you negate Snake Eye Ash and then they Bonfire for Poplar, or, like, they Bonfire for Poplar or whatever, but I feel like if you're playing, like, a Rescue Ace deck or you're playing, like, a Fire King deck, Bonfire for Poplar is just not an issue, you know what I mean, for the Field Splitter OSS. I think that that's perfectly fine. I think that that's actually really cool. And I just don't, like, I don't think that there's enough, like, Pyro targets that this is going to be an issue at the moment. So that's my take on Bonfire, and I think that's also going to be the game's take. I just don't think that, I don't think we need to overload any of the other cards as long as we just ban the actual issues. The next card is going to be Simple Spoils. I've seen a lot of people say ban this. I do think that it would be a lot if they did just ban this because you take so much consistency away from the deck. However, I don't, like, agree with banning it. I think that it would be fine if they banned it, and, like, it would kill Snake Eyes enough right now. But I think that we're getting, like, new sets that are just introducing more cards that are going to, like, help this deck. And we also have all those new cards that are coming out that interact, like, directly with this. So I just don't think that they're going to be hitting it at the moment. I think that this card also is really cool for other decks. Like, I think, like, Summoning Hydra. I'm not a Rescue Ace fan, by the way. I know I've mentioned that deck. I just, like, it's the main thing that comes to mind that I think, like, can utilize, like, good stuff cards and, like, could play all three of these. That deck's not an issue. That deck, in my opinion, has never really been an issue, truthfully. I think that, like, that deck wouldn't just take over as the best deck. I think it would just, like, have additional good cards to be able to play, and you can play a consistent deck. And I think that's fine. I think that this card's perfectly fine. I think you could ban this card, but I think banning this and Flamebridge is just also just a little drastic. And I don't think anything's going to happen to it. Wanted, I think, is a little broken. And I think Wanted's not going to be at 3 forever. I think Wanted will be at 1 at some point, but I don't think that point's right now. I think that Wanted is a super strong card. I think starting with Wanted's, like, it's super strong, but I think, like, the idea of playing, like, I also didn't include Witch on here, as I'm sure you obviously are seeing. I didn't include Witch because who's asking for Witch, right? Like, I feel like if that deck didn't have Flamebridge, it would just be another deck in the fray, but worse probably. Like, I just actually think that nobody plays Snake Eyes without Flamebridge. Tell me in the comments if I'm just tripping and I'm not touching enough cards, but I think Konami's going to take the same, like, route. I think, like, killing Flamebridge is just, like, huge. Like, this is everything the deck does, and I just don't think that it does anything better than other decks if you're not summoning Flamebridge. Honestly, I think Flamebridge is genuinely the only issue with this deck. There's other things with this deck that are super strong, but I just don't, like, I do think, like, Ash's, both of his effects are crazy. I think, like, Poplar is super strong. I think it plays super consistency cards, but I just think if those consistency cards weren't getting the Flamebridge, it wouldn't be an issue. I think every deck does something that's strong. If your deck doesn't do something that's super strong, it's just, your deck's not very, like, you just wouldn't be playing that deck, right? And I know that people are like, well, that's great. We don't want to play Snake Eye. That's why we want more stuff to happen. But I think that it's fine if you, like, play Snake Eye as long as it's not, like, oppressive. And I do believe that just nobody will play Snake Eye. Like, I really think that hitting Flamebridge will kill the deck. I think Wanted is going to be at 1 at some point. I just don't think it's right now. I think, like, playing, like, 3 Wanted, 2 copies of Witch, 1 copy of OSS, and then, like, 3 of this and 1 of this, maybe, in a deck like Rescue Ace or Fire Kings. I think it's, like, really cool. I like the idea of that. So, for me personally, I think that those all will be cool to see stay and kind of see how that develops, like, what other decks, like, utilize them. And I just have no particular issue with that. I think that the engine will be, like, I think this engine is super broken, but I think it'll be a lot cooler when, obviously, Witch included here. I just don't think that anybody's actually expecting anything to happen to Witch. I'd be blown away if it was. I think the engine's really cool if they didn't if it wasn't specifically in Snake Eye extending additionally, I think it's really ridiculous and irritating. So this is going to be like the main hits to the Snake Eye deck. Obviously, as you can see next, our two friends from the Snake Eye deck, everybody's favorites. Everybody loves these cards. Everybody wants these to stay, right? Get wrong. So Appaloosa, personally, selfishly, I'd like to see Appaloosa stay because I love playing it in the Voices Boys deck. You guys know that. You guys have seen the combo. But in reality, it's not. It just. I think that people are just calling too hard for it to go. I feel like it's one of the last like really broken. Like I'm sure I'm gonna get a lot of comments that are like, "Well, IPSP, blah blah blah." I get that there's a lot of broken Link monsters. However, Appaloosa feels like the last of like really broken. Like we've had like Gumbler, real Firewall, not the Reddit one. Like we've had like broken Goblin, like some really crazy links in the game, and we've kind of like slowly gotten rid of all of them. I think that Appaloosa is kind of like the last hero standing type deal, where it's like any two monsters just being two Omni Negates or more than that is just out of control. I think it also makes it way harder to like go second into almost anything. Appaloosa, I think it's not. I think it probably could stay because my 50% qualm with getting rid of this card is that nobody was calling for Appaloosa to be banned before Snake Eyes. That's my opinion. Just think about it before you're like, no, Appaloosa, toxic. In my opinion, before the Snake Eye deck was out of control, nobody was ever asking for Appaloosa to be banned. Like, Appaloosa was strong. We all knew it was strong. But before the Snake Eye deck, I feel like nobody was pushing and was like, no, this card's oppressive. This got to go. So I think if Appaloosa stayed, it wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world. I think it's not as like, oh my god, this card's hurting the health of the game as much as everybody else thinks. Are people going to summon it? Yes. But was anybody complaining about it that aggressively before the Snake Eye deck? No, which is why I think it could stay. Do I think it's going to stay? No. And would I be that, like, selfishly, I would love to see it stay. I'd be hyped. But if I see it go, am I going to be crushed? No. I mean, it's anytime anybody summons Appaloosa on me either, I'm not thrilled about it. So it's probably going. That's just the reality. IP, people saying IP needs to go, that's just cope. IP does not need to go. IP, think about that same situation I talked about. In fairness, there was no IP into SP really. Well, yeah, it was. It was before Snake Eye. There was IP into SP, and I feel like nobody was ever talking about let's ban IP, right? Because they were doing that before in the Rescue Ace deck and in like some other decks. I just don't think IP into SP is an issue. It's not an Omni Negate. It's a banish. It's a cool interaction. I think that it facilitates like interesting game states. I think before the Snake Eye deck, nobody was asking for IP to be banned, and I think after the Snake Eye deck, nobody's going to be asking for IP to be banned. I think IP is a massively reasonable card, and that's really all I have like to say about it. I think IP is just like not a ban-worthy card. Like this card's just been around for a long time, and it's just never been ban-worthy, and I still currently think it's not. So, our next friend, the Moon Goddess. As you see, I'm not immediately moving this into a spot. Moon Goddess is interesting. I have been into YCS before, playing in it, and during the round we got a ban list, and they hit decks that I didn't think that they would so fast. It was the Super Heavy Samurai deck. They hit the Link 1, and they hit I forget the other card was, but they hit like brand new decks before, and I think that kind of makes me wonder if they would do that again. I would like to see it go. I don't know why we even got this when we did in the first place, and I think it would have been not as bad had we not also got the TCG exclusives, but we definitely did. I think that this card, it should go because I think it makes the entire like Fiendsmith engine just more reasonable. I think if you have the Fiendsmith engine and you don't have Moon Goddess, it's like, well, you have to hard open them, and then there's like better counters. I think that the Moon Goddess is probably would be cool if they banned it. I'm like 25% that they ban it. I think it's unlikely that they ban it, but this is just what I think is going to happen. By the way, this is not like what I want specifically to happen. I think that I want it to go. I think there's a 25% chance it goes. But I think more importantly is Beatrice, which I think we could all just agree Beatrice has overstayed its welcome. Nobody wants Beatrice to stay. Like, I'm sorry, BA players, but it's got to go. Beatrice is out of control. Way too strong. I mean, it's just obvious, right? Like, Beatrice in the Fiendsmith cards, too strong, needs to go, facilitates all kinds of, like, not fun gameplay. That's really it. Like, I think we don't really need to talk about Beatrice because Beatrice is just out of control with the Fiendsmith cards. Needs to go, too easy to summon. Phantom of Yubel. I feel like this card belongs at 1, but I think it's going nowhere confidently. I would be blown away if they put this card at 1. And truthfully, I think it's fine just staying at 3. I think we just like probably address other cards in the deck. I think if we didn't address anything else, then like putting it to 1 would be a big deal. But I think there's just no chance they're putting this card to 1. That's where it belongs. Do I think it'll be at 1 someday? I think it's very, very possible. Yama is another one. I think Yama is like a potential that could get banned. It's either... So, for me, with the Yubel deck, I think the Yubel deck is just going to be just Snake Eye 2.0 if we just ban Flameburge and Appaloosa, and then don't address the Yubel deck. Unfortunately, Phantom's just too new, and I think that I didn't even put Beckoning Beasts and Gates on here because I think I've seen a lot of different lists playing like 3 Beckoning Beasts and 1 Gates or 2 Gates, and then like some lists playing like 3 Gates, 1 Beast, and 1 of the other little guy. Whichever one they put to... I don't see them banning either one. If they did, I think it's a big deal. I don't think they would, and I don't think it's required. I think that they're just going to leave both of those cards alone because I think they're just super interchangeable. What I do think is going to happen is something with Yama and Shavara. I think Yama's going to stay... Like, I think one of these cards needs to be banned. I think Yama is going to stay because you could still just play it in the Unchained deck. And I think you could still just summon the blue dog with Yama. But I think the Searching Shavara is just out of control. I think you can still play the pure Unchained deck. It's a lot weaker without Shavara. Too bad. I think Shavara just needs to go. Like, I think if they ban Shavara, it makes the Yubel deck, like, way more manageable. I think it makes it way more reasonable, and I think that it makes the format just a lot more even, and I think that Yubel just will not be overpowered if we just, like, get rid of... Because don't forget, the Unchained cards are going to be crazy, especially if we get rid of Beatrice. I think that the Fiendsmith cards are really good in that deck. Like, a lot of them are playing the quick play as well, which is, like, more access to it, and I think if we get rid of the Shavara, I think that will make the deck just, like, a lot closer to the same playing field as a lot of other decks, which, to me, is what we need, right? That's what everybody wants. We all just want to play a fun, fair format. Like, for me, you guys all know, I love playing Voiceless. A lot of you guys might know me as a Paleo guy. I played Paleo for 4 years straight. Like, Paleo, I love that deck. And there's just a lot of other decks that I enjoy. I don't specifically want to feel forced into playing the same deck as everybody else. I think that if you have to play the same thing as everybody else, you might as well just play chess. And one of the things I like is that everybody gets to play whatever deck they enjoy and like just playing. So I think that you should play whatever deck you enjoy, but sometimes the other decks are just so freaking strong that you just can't. Like, if your deck isn't able to fit in 20 plus hand traps, it's hard to justify playing it in the Snake Eye format, which is part of everybody's issue in the first place. So I think we need to get rid of Shavara. Gimmick Puppet. I seen Master Duel banned it. Please, for the love of God, just don't ban the Puppet. Get rid of Sanctifier. We all know it's Sanctifier. Like, everybody knows. Everybody knows Sanctifier needs to go. Why would we ban the Puppet? I don't see any good reason. Like, I know you could be like, oh, ban the cards. I like the idea of Sanctifier and the way that it is as a card. That sucks. I think it's cool, but it's unfortunately it facilitates just like toxic gameplay, the Puppet play, and they're just gonna replace the Puppet with other super strong cards. So I think we just like have to get rid of Sanctifier. I'm split on if they're gonna get rid of Puppet or Sanctifier. I hope that they get rid of Sanctifier, and I think that they're smart enough to do it. I think the TCG is not Master Duel or the OCG. I think they'll do it. Hot Red is an interesting one. I actually think Hot Red's not going to get banned, but I would love to get it banned. I would love to see this card go. Don't get me wrong on this one. Just because I'm saying I think it's nothing's going to happen to it doesn't mean that's what I want to happen. I think that just nobody has done well with this deck yet, and I think that they're going to take that into consideration. I think that not enough people have done well with the Puppet deck, and I think that's why like none of the actual Gimmick Puppet FTK cards are going to get hit. I think that it's the same thing with Hot Red. Like, do I think that it's going to be an irritating thing and it's going to be part of the next format? Yes, I surely do. I think a lot of people are going to play this Centurion Whitewood deck, and I think that this card is going to be an issue, and I'd almost guarantee the next ban list they get rid of it, but I'd be very surprised if they actually got rid of it this time. Even though they've heard people say, like, get rid of it, it's just not done enough, which is how Sanctifier has lived for so long, and Sanctifier has done way more every format than this card has. So, that's what I think they're going to do. I feel actually pretty confident about that. Skill Drain. God, since I've been playing this game for almost 10 years, and Skill Drain just went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. They should just ban it. They like the floodgates at 1, so I feel very confident they're just going to put it to 1. Should it be at 1? No, it should be banned, but I feel confident they're going to put it to 1. I don't know why they like floodgates at 1. You can't search them, and it feels random. So I like, you can't even prepare for them. That's a problem with putting stuff like that at 1. It's like you can't prepare for it reasonably, but then you can't you consider it a little, but like it's not something that you're considering. You can like do anything about a deck building. Right now, playing Cosmics for the 1 of Skill Drain, but shouldn't be at 1. It's going to be at 1. Sing and Summoning. I think that this deck. I have a hard time believing Tempai could ever actually be the best deck. Like a going second deck, it feels like it's just like a weird situation that like that deck would ever actually be the best deck because it wants to go second, even though I realize it's dominantly been the second best deck. I think that in any format, the best it could ever be is like the second best deck because it wants to go second. It just is a weird conundrum that I don't think it ever could be the best deck. But I do think that if they got rid of the field spell, if they put the field spell to 1, I think it would make the deck a lot more manageable. I believe we've seen this in the OCG. And I think we all kind of understand that this should happen. Plush Fire, it got an errata. There's going to be new support for it. I think this is pretty obvious that this is just coming back to 1. Not going to really spend any time with it. Summon Sorceress, got an errata. I think it's also obvious that this is now coming back. That is really with those. Like I don't really have much to say about them. I feel like we all should just expect those to come back because they got erratas. I'm not saying that this is a guarantee because Konami does stupid things all the time, but that's my take on them. The next cards are going to be some interesting ones to talk about. I hate this card. This is one of my most hated cards of all time. I love playing whatever deck I enjoy, and this is one of the only times I ever stopped playing a deck because I genuinely actually just couldn't beat it. I'm sure I'm going to get some comments that are like, you could have done this, you could have done this. I do not want to play a deck unless I feel like I can beat other decks 100% of the time. Like, I think with Voiceless, I can beat every single deck 100% of the time. I think like, obviously it's going to be Yu-Gi-Oh! Some things are going to happen sometimes, but I don't like playing a deck that's just like, you cannot feel like you are going to win every time. And I played Paleo when Masterpiece came out, and I didn't feel like I could win every time. That being said, the last ban list brought me back into the game after a while. I had stopped playing for like a format when they put Sleepy to 2 because I really enjoyed playing the deck and I just thought every other deck sucked at the time. So I was like, I just don't want to play this. And I think that like when I came back and seen the list and I seen 3 Engage, Colossus, Protoss, and Friends back, it makes me think about this list that they're willing to push the boundaries, and I think that they want to bring some cards back from like that era-ish. And Masterpiece is the only one. Like they've tried Dryden, like everything I can think about from that time of the game has been tried, almost everything, and I feel like Masterpiece is just the next piece, especially with Skill Drain going to 1. Do I think Masterpiece should come back? No. Do I want Masterpiece to come back? Hell no. Do I think it's going to come back? I genuinely do. I really do think Masterpiece is coming back. That's just my gut instinct is telling me that it's time. I'm not a financial advisor channel, by the way. I would hope that that's needless to say is I haven't made any videos based on stuff like that, but I'm just saying don't go out and buy your masterpieces, but I feel strongly that that's what's going to happen. Heavy Metal Foes Electromite, our next friend. I also think this card's going to 1. I think kind of on the same thing, right? Like, we got 3 Engage, we have Harpoor, we have Colossus, we have Protoss. I think just like a lot of... We've tried Dryden, it's just, like, they just keep getting banned. But I think that it's... I think it's time. I'm willing to try Electromite. I think Electromite would be not as good as everybody thinks. Like, the pendulum mechanic still works the same way it did before, like, when they brought Links out to hinder it. And I just don't think it would make a pendulum deck good enough. I think, though, it might be... Like, I think it would facilitate people to have fun and be able to play decks that they enjoy, and I think there are a ton of people who their favorite thing is pendulums, and I think that they just are not going to be playing pendulums without Electromite. A Melodious, I think, is something interesting. Like, how good is that Melodious? I don't know. But the best deck? No, I don't think so. Like, I think there's just so many answers for Electromite that it's just not that big of a deal. I would like to see Electromite come back to 1. I'm not a pendulum fan. I wouldn't play it. But I think that it's fine to come back. I think that it's Electromite's time, and I feel like it's going to come back. I think that they've been trying a lot of cards from around that era. You know, that 1 to 3 year span, and Electromite's like one of the only ones that they haven't tried yet, and I think it's like perfectly fine. It's in the other formats, and it's just like doesn't do anything. I think, especially getting the new Chummy soon, I think Electromite's like cool to come back. Pankratops, it should just be at 3. No, I don't think anybody disagrees with that. I think they're going to do it. I think they're going to bring Pankratops back to 3. I think it's a decent card for the game. It was, like, they got put it to 1 when it was, like, a lot stronger, and I think they could just bring it right back to 3. Armageddon Knight, same thing. Just not an issue. Hasn't been an issue. I don't think it'd be an issue at 3. I think so. It's still just nobody will play it. Maybe it's weird for future card design, but I just think, like, Normal Summon Dumb and Dark is just not strong enough at this point. Our last card is our friend Colossus. I think Colossus is interesting. I hope that they don't bring this card back to 2. Like, I genuinely think, like, 1 copy of this, like, even though I've been Colossus by the Ritual Beast deck, I think at 2 it's scary. I think at 2 people might play Thunder Dragons genuinely. Like, do I think it's going to be a top deck? Probably not, but do I think you're going to run into it and just not have enough for Colossus every once in a while? Yes. And I don't like that kind of gameplay, which is why I think stuff like Skill Drain shouldn't be at, like, 1. That's why I also don't like the idea of something like Masterpiece coming back, because, like, should you have an out for it? Yes. But, like, are you going to exactly draw the out? Probably not. And is it very likely that like, once in a while you're just going to play against Masterpiece and you just can't out it? Yep. Colossus feels the same way. I think it's 50-50 whether or not they bring it back to 2 or leave it limited. I hope that they leave it limited, but I think they might bring it back to 2. The only other card on this list that, now that I'm looking at this, I somehow forgot because my brain must be the size of a peanut, is Dimension Shifter. How could I have forgotten Dimension Shifter? Dimension Shifter is like one of the main things I wanted to talk about here, so I am really sorry that I don't have Dimension Shifter on here. But for everybody who just wanted to go to the end and take a screenshot, I'm going to realize that that's what you did. Like, you didn't watch the video. If you don't watch and listen to me talk about the, just talk about the cards. So, Dimension Shifter, I think Dimension Shifter is the only card in the 10 years I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! That I've thought, I could see this card going to 2. Malicious, I did think that about as well. I think Malicious is like a perfect card to be at 2. However, I've never cared enough about Malicious to be like, I'll put it at 2. I think Malicious just sucks at 1, 2, 3. Like, I think Malicious is like, whatever, it's brick. Shifter, I think, at 2 makes a lot of sense to me. I'd love to see it at 0 or ban, like, at 0 or 1, rather. That would be my preference. I hate Shifter. I think nobody likes Shifter. But I think certain decks are, like, Shifter decks for a reason. Like, you classify them as Shifter decks because they're Shifter decks. They're not even their own archetype. And I think that the important thing about like letting people play their own decks, I think, like, Shifter, especially with them wanting to push that new archetype. I think the cool thing about putting Shifter to 2 is it makes me feel way more like you can't use a Shifter mid-game, so, like, you have to open it right away. And it makes me feel like one out of the, like, whenever I play a Shifter deck, it feels like 2 to 3 out of the 3 games they have the Shifter. And that's irritating. But if they have shipped one of the 3 games, no problem. I could deal with that. And putting it at 2 makes me feel like they actually will only have it one of the 3 games. So I think that that's where that card belongs, and I really hope that they put it at 2. I'd love to see it banned or limited, but I think that 2 is like reasonable. I think I could see it going to 2. So that's what I think. That's my take in the ban list. Thank you guys all so much for sticking in. I see that this is a long video, and I appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the continued support. I have multiple different voiceless voice videos coming out soon. If they ban our boy Appaloosa, I already have a new combo conjured, and it's broken just as good as the Appaloosa combo. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. I have been just grinding and, super excited about the list coming out and having a new format and having voiceless be like buy 200,000 the best deck. And I just really wanted to take this time to thank everybody for all the continued support, for you guys watching the videos, for you guys liking, commenting, all the good stuff. The support has just been out of control. It's been incredible. And, you guys are the freaking best. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys shortly.